Okay, welcome to this special edition of French Revolution Political Leanings. I call it a special edition because it's something we need to go over. It's something I want to share a screen with you and leave as a reference. It's very important that you learn this because going forward, you're going to be using these terms a lot. But the terms and the ideologies begin with the French Revolution. Now, as you hopefully have been paying attention, a lot of the changes, a lot of the drama, a lot of the decisions made with the French Revolution have gone on inside the city of Paris in one particular meeting hall, in particular, where all the delegates came to meet together. And they kept changing their name time after time, the National Convention, the Convention Assembly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they change the name, but it's always basically this same legislative, argumentative, debating type body. And what you want to do is you want to kind of figure out who's who. And so to do that, I've been working on a chart, and trust me, doing things on a computer do not come easy to me. So this took me a little while, and there's probably a much easier way to do it, but I think this works. All right, so, and we go here. And this deals with scale of political leanings. And the central question of all politics, you see that right there. How do you feel about change? Yes, that's the central question. How do you feel about change? Do you like things as they are? Or do you think things need to change in the future? Or do you actually think that things were better in the past? My goodness, don't eat people ever leave me alone. Anyway, sorry. Yeah. So getting back to the matter at hand. So change in this situation, in our situation, refers to the French Revolution. The various delegates from the various factions went to the meetings, and once again, the central question is, how do you feel about the revolution? What direction should it take? And just as today, people sat in the assembly hall in accordance with their political feelings. I mean, like for example, if you go to Washington, D.C., the Senate, House of Representatives, the Democrats sit on one side, the Republicans sit on the other. Yeah. And that tradition actually begins here in the French Revolution, that people would sit and their seat would be assigned in accordance with how they felt about the French Revolution. And so we're going to start with some basic terminologies, political terminologies. And those three things we want to begin with are these three things here. I mean, you already have them. Yeah, here on your study guide. All these terminologies here. These first three. Let's get back to this, please. Thank you. So, the three terms: liberal, moderate, and conservative. You need to have a definition for each of those, a simple definition. And once again, it goes back to the central question. How do you feel about change? Okay, question is, what is a conservative? A conservative does not like change. Okay? Doesn't want change. Wants things to stay the same. Okay? Now, on the other side of this, and by the way, notice the spectrum. Conservatives are on your right of the page. This is my right hand, or on your right, and I know I'm probably pointing left. This always confused me. But on your right, conservative, and by the way, they're also being conservative is often referred to as being a right winger. Yeah. Right wing, conservative, doesn't like change. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, the left wing, this is my left hand, left wing, left on your paper, you're looking at it, are the liberals. Liberals want change. Simple, simple. Conservatives don't want change, liberals want change. But what about this guy in the middle? Moderates. Moderates are people who think some change is okay, but others we don't necessarily need. Moderates, somewhere in the middle. Yeah, and people once again in this chamber would set in accordance with how they felt about the course of the French Revolution. Okay, simple dimple. All right, now let's learn two new terms. Notice that I wrote these terms in red up here. Radical and reactionary. So what are they? Once again, and I wish that I could move this further out here and this further out here. I just didn't have enough room. Pardon me. But so I just wrote them in red, okay? Because red is a color to me that denotes anger. So what is a reactionary? A reactionary is a person who is opposed to change so much, extremely opposed to change so much that they will resort to violence to prevent change or to go back to the way things were. I mean, you can reference, trust me, you can reference all sorts of people here. Militias in this country, people who are against laws about gay marriage, people who people who are against the federal government, want to kidnap the governor of Michigan, and put her on trial. Or you could also go to other countries, like particularly a problem in the Muslim world is religious extremism, fundamentalism, where in places like Afghanistan, you have a group called the Taliban who wants to live according to strict Islamic fundamentalist Sharia law, which means that women stay home. I remember this group back in the 1980s, maybe the 1990s. And Afghanistan was going through a lot of changes, and women were wanting to do more things. And there was this one group of women, for example, who wanted to play soccer, football. And I remember that the Taliban one day went out and rounded up all those women who would play football, and they hung them from the goalpost. I mean, see, that's reactionaryism, resorting to violence to prevent change. Okay? Resorting to violence to prevent reform. Now, on the other hand, you have these guys, radicals. Radicals are people who want change so badly, they will resort to violence to achieve such change. Just about every revolutionary movement that has ever occurred has been referred to as radicals because they want to inflict change, and they want to what is this? They want to they want to inflict change, and they will resort to violent means to do it. Revolutionary movements, for example, when the communists took over Russia, that was a radical movement because it was done by a revolution. The American Revolution would be considered a radical movement. They were enacting change and resorting to violence to do it. That's radicalism. Okay. And so, yeah, now in the French Revolution, same thing. But I mean, actually, this is where it begins. People would set in accordance with how they felt about the revolution. And there were three primary factions. The Royalists, who, they supported the monarchy. They actually wanted the king to be the king, absolute rule, the three estates back. Yeah, they wanted those things to be back. Make France great again. And so, yeah, they were the royalists, and yeah, they sit over here in the conservative. A lot of the peasants representatives actually were over here. Now, and over here, the liberals, they belong to a group who called themselves the Jacobins, named after the Jacobin debating club of Paris. But yeah, and yeah, there were lots of Jacobins who they wanted extreme measures. These are the guys who wanted to not only get rid of the king, they wanted to behead the king, end up beheading Marie Antoinette, end up beheading lots of people. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 100,000 people during the Reign of Terror were beheaded one at a time. Yeah, dragging people out of prisons. These are the Jacobins. And yeah, they were radicals. Now, here is another group. The Jacobins were the largest group. The second largest group were the Girondins. They were moderates. They wanted to change the government, but they wanted to change it to a constitutional monarchy where the king was still in power. Okay? So look, now you have, oh yes, this one here, the mountain. What is that? Notice I put it above the others. Well, see what happened. We're looking at the assembly hall and we walk in and you have conservatives sitting over here, moderates sitting in the middle, and then radicals sitting over here to the left. Well, there were so many of them that not only did they fill the floor over here, but they sat up in the rafters. They sat up in the balcony. And so it was nicknamed the mountain. And there you are. Now you know those terms. And I'm going to end this, and now you have that copy of that. I will not go over it in class. Well, maybe I will, but only briefly. But yeah, so keep that handy. And we stop.